Hello and welcome to Warhammer Wednesday. This will be my review of the Primaris Space Marines Intercessor squad. One of these sets will cost you £35. It's a fair bit of money, especially for 10 miniatures. I'll be going through all of the models individually, how easy they were to build, things like that. Then I'll be showing you the spare parts that you get after completing these, and also then do a bit of a size comparison. And then finally I'll talk about the rules and compare them to, you know, your standard Space Marines. So the main sort of loadout that you would pick for these intercessors, pretty much three types of bolt rifle. You can go for your auto bolt rifle, which I've equipped all of these with because the models in the Dark Imperium box set have bolt rifles, and some actually have scopes on them, so I could call them stalker bolt rifles. The auto bolt rifles, which have these sort of drum magazines, their profile is slightly different. Then you've got the normal sort of bolt rifles, and then the stalker bolt rifles, which are the ones with the scope on the top. And they all have different profiles, but they're your three main types of weapons in this set. Doesn't have any plasma pistols, doesn't have any assault weapons like plasma guns or anything like that. They do have these bolt rifles with auxiliary grenade launchers, and for every 5 models in the squad you can have an auxiliary grenade launcher. In terms of how easy they were to build, very easy. One thing I will say is that if you've seen the unboxing, you'll know that there are 2 sprues replicated. So that means that 5 of these models are pretty much the same as the other 5. In terms of torsos and leg positions, you can't get around that fact at all. Here is the set of twins, but as you can see, I've modelled them slightly differently, so you can't really tell. So maybe if you've got 20 of them, you're not going to tell that much, because luckily you can just equip the guns and the arms from any number of intercessors and just mix and match with any of the torsos. So you're not limited in that regard. And I was surprised at the number of sort of one-armed models that you can make, either with a combat knife or a pistol, or looking at his wrist display there. You know, I was surprised at that, and I'll go through the spare parts in a moment. The models are in decent poses, I'd say. I've gone for all auto rifles, like I say. There's this guy sort of aiming, moving forward. You've got the sergeant. It's up to you. You can have 5 and then a sergeant, and another 5 and a sergeant if you wish. But I've just basically put 1 sergeant. I mean, at a push you could have him as a sergeant, maybe. One thing it does come is these extra sort of shoulder pieces of armour that go on the shoulder armour. They're sort of reminiscent of the parts that you get on Terminators and Grey Knights and things like that. I do like what they've done with the bolt rifles. Quite a few of them have these straps, which really add to the model. They also have a number of these very small parts, like this meter or something like that. Some have boxes with like bones in, and there's plenty of purity seals too. They also have quite a wide number of shoulder pauldrons that are slightly different. Then we've got this guy who's holding his bolt rifle. Although this bolt rifle has to be an auto bolt rifle only, the one that he's holding. This guy's got his combat knife out. I must say that's quite a small combat knife, but I've stuck on the sheath on there too, just for effect. And he's sort of moving forward and one-handing his rifle. And then this guy sort of aiming upwards, probably about to launch one of those grenades. I might make the hole a bit bigger for the grenade launcher. Yeah, I probably should actually. And they all have these sort of pouches, and some have little pouches and some have the pouches sort of separate, like I put a separate pouch there. Some have these sort of canister type things separate. So, and then this auxiliary grenade launcher, just looking forward. This guy sort of aiming upwards. You can get them in some pretty decent poses. The legs are quite decent too. And then I've got a couple that look the same. I mean, this guy's got a key there. Looks similar to this guy, maybe. Yeah, they look quite similar. I think they're in different legs though. But I would have liked to have seen a few more aiming the guns. There seems to be a lot of one arms and quite a few of the guns sort of facing down. But I've got a few that are aiming. I suppose most of them are aiming. That's a good pose. I really like that one. Very stoic. I think that's probably the pose to sum up my Primaris Space Marines. I think that's very decent. And it would look very good with a Stalker bolt rifle too. Yeah, I'm very tempted to get another pack, but I don't think I'd get any more than sort of 20 in total. And obviously I've got the Dark Empyrean ones, which are, you know, in that uni pose. Speaking of poses, the arms all have slightly different sort of shapes to go in the plugs of the guns. So the arms will only go in with certain guns, if that makes sense. So you're only going to get the same pose. You can obviously then move both the arms lower or higher. So in a way, it's almost slightly more restrictive than your standard Space Marine set, where you have a bit more flexibility, I think anyway. So as before, with all these sets, you get this wonderful instruction guide. It's such an improvement over the standard Space Marine guide that I saw. I looked at one of my old videos from about 4 years ago now. Can't believe how much time's flown in 4 years, but still, that guide, it was purely black and white. It didn't have the colour matchings or anything like that. It didn't have a lot of the options, didn't talk about those options either, and it didn't have the rules. You've actually got the data sheet and the PowerPoints as well in the instruction book. So we've come a long way. In some of the guides you do get a colour guide, but in this one you don't, unfortunately. So what I'll do now is I'll just do a few size comparisons and then we'll talk about the rules. So here's a mini marine or standard Space Marine in sort of a similar type of pose. Probably best if I just show you him this way. So as you can see, he's more than a head and shoulders above your standard mini marine. Doesn't help that he's on a small base. Yeah, I get that, but still, that is your size difference. And then next to a custodian guard, he is almost as tall as a custodian guard. Hopefully you can see that. Almost. Now they only have one transport option at the moment. They can't drop pod in, they can't use Land Raiders or Rhinos, so they have the Primaris Repulsor, which is just there, which if you look, very difficult to sort of fit them in, but still. So that is their main sort of transport option at the moment, unless you just want to deploy them normally. I mean, they've got pretty good range weapons. Their bolt rifles are typically 30 inches. I think a bit more for the Stalker bolt rifle. So I'll just show you the spare parts and then I'll just compare them with standard sort of Space Marines. So these are all your spare parts. As you can see, you get a fair bit. I don't know how useful they're going to be. What I mean by that is if you bought a box of 5, which I wouldn't suggest you do, I'd suggest you buy the box of 10 because it works out cheaper. Even if you bought the box of 5 or 10, you're going to get these parts in that box anyway. If you're going for helmetless Primaris, it's pretty cool because you do get a couple of these helmets that you can just attach to the side, and that does look quite cool. You get a fair few bolt rifles, but again, their usage as spare parts is quite limited because all of them, with the exception of one left-handed one, have their left hand and the fingers on the underbarrel of the gun, which is completely different than the old Space Marines, which their bolt guns were completely separate, so you could use them in many other models. Like I say, you get a huge selection of shoulder pauldrons, including one sort of studded one. You get a few bolt pistols, you get some pointed fingers. There was a couple that had signals on them, like this hand for halt or whatever. And there was also one with his 2 fingers for advance or whatever that means. And you get quite a few of these pouches and purity seals and things like that. So yeah, you do get a fair few parts, and you could easily use quite a few of those if you bought 5 Primaris. But they're probably going to include these anyway. So yeah, usage may vary. At least you could probably use a few of those with your standard Space Marine sets. But I just thought I'd make that point about them. let's talk about the rules now. So of course you'll find them in the new Space Marine Codex. Under troops, they have a power rating of 5, which is exactly the same as a 5-man tactical squad, I might add. The whole stat line is the same as a tactical squad, except that they get 2 wounds and they get 2 attacks. Everything else is the same. Their weapons are different. Long gone are the bolt guns, with your rapid fire 1 shot, 24 inches. You've now got these bolt rifles, and you've got 3 flavours with the Intercessors. I've equipped them all with auto bolt rifles. One of the main reasons is because I want them to be quite flexible, and I like the fact that they can move their 6 inches and fire no matter what. And I've got the normal standard bolt rifles and things in the other squad. So an auto bolt rifle, it's got a range of 24 inches, it's assault 2, strength 4, and it's damage 1. So it doesn't have the -1 AP. The other option is the standard bolt rifle, which is a range 30 inch, rapid fire 1, strength 4, AP -1, and damage 1. And then finally the Stalker bolt rifle, which is the same range as a heavy bolter, so 36 inch range, heavy 1, strength 4, AP -2. So that's pretty decent as well. Every model has got a bolt rifle, bolt pistol, frag grenades and crack grenades. Obviously these have auto bolt rifles. And all models in the unit may replace the bolt rifle with an auto bolt rifle or Stalker bolt rifle. Now I read that as to say that all models can, in the sense that if you've got 5, you can have all of them with bolt rifles. I wouldn't take that as you can have 2 with bolt rifles and the rest with auto bolt rifles. I wouldn't take that at all, because it says all models, which is a little bit different than the other wording for, say, the Scouts, where it says any model may replace his bolt gun with a sniper rifle. When it says any model, you would think that any model could replace their bolt rifle with an auto bolt rifle, but it doesn't say that. It says all models, which is different wording. For every 5 models in the unit, 1 may take an auxiliary grenade launcher. The auxiliary grenade launcher has its own abilities. Basically, all it does is it just increases the range of any of the grenade weapons they have to 30 inches. So that means that they can hurl those frag grenades, which are D6 hits. It's only strength 3, but D6 hits at 30 inches, which is pretty awesome. And the crack grenade, again, you're getting strength 6, but it is D3 damage and AP -1. The Intercessor Sergeant may take a power sword. Is the power sword included in the box set? No, it isn't. I couldn't find it anywhere. I think it's quite poor. Likewise, I think it's quite poor that you don't get a chainsword or anything like that. Chainswords are only for tactical squads. I don't know why Mike Call or whoever didn't equip them with chainswords or didn't create a larger chainsword. I would like to say that that's because of their higher strength, but that's not even the case either. But it gives you the option for them to take a power sword. But other than that, they've just got the standard knives. And then finally, they've got, their other abilities, and they shall know no fear, and combat squads. So combat squads, you can, these 10 can be split into 2 units. And finally, we'll just do a little comparison with the standard sort of mini marines. So mini marines for a squad of 5, same power, same stat line, except they've only got 1 wound and they've only got 1 attack. Their bolt guns are obviously the 24 inch rapid fire 1 shot. However, what changes is with the sergeant. So you can still have 4 Space Marines and a sergeant, but the sergeant can replace his bolt pistol and bolt gun with items from the sergeant equipment list. So that opens up his usage for power fists, power swords, chainsaws, you name it. It just opens it up. If the unit contains less than 10 models, 1 Space Marine may replace his bolt gun with an item from the special weapons or heavy weapons list. But then if the model contains 10 models, then you can replace his bolt gun with an item from special weapons list and the other from the heavy weapons list. So you can have a missile launcher and a melter gun, or plasma gun and a plasma cannon, whatever you like. And again, they shall know no fear and combat squads, they've got both of those. And then you open up the transport sort of options, and you'll see that Space Marines have more options and they're more flexible. These Primaris, you're sacrificing so much for a different type of bolt rifle, 2 wounds and 2 attacks. They're going to have to trudge it through the battlefield, whereas your standard Space Marines, they've got access to drop pods, land raiders, rhinos, razorbacks. They've got access to the heavy weapons and special weapons. So the bottom line is, Standard mini Space Marines are still good. They still have a lot of flexibility. They're still very survivable with a 3+ armor save. And these Primaris Space Marines, they just offer an additional unit, sort of a different type of way to play. They've got the 2 wounds, they've got the 2 attacks. They're more survivable because of those 2 wounds, and they can dish out more damage just because of their weapons. But still, you've got standard Space Marine squads with a missile launcher or a melter gun or something like that. I mean, these intercessors, I would say, are not good at tanks. They haven't got that flexibility at taking down tanks. They haven't got a strength 5, or they haven't, the best they've got is the crack grenades at strength 6. They can't take a plasma pistol or plasma gun or plasma incinerator or anything like that. They're very, very niche. Where would I use them in the battlefield? I'd use them as maybe either a sniper shot with the 36-inch range Stalker bolt rifles in a defensive position, maybe 5 of them, because in a way that's still 10 wounds. I'd use them in a advancing position where there's 10 of them with auto rifles, and then they've got a 30-inch effective range in terms of moving and then still shooting those weapons. I mean, it might only take 2 rounds of moving for them to be in range or something. And also you can use them in the repulsor. Don't ask me how you can fit all of these 10 in that repulsor, but apparently you can. And I'd use them as a mop-up squad, really, or as the assault aspect of the small force of them and the repulsor. I mean, the repulsor still has 6 attacks at strength 8 with 16 wounds and toughness 8. So, the repulsor itself, and that's not including all of the enormous plethora of weapons that is so difficult to sort of keep track of on that tank too. So whether you're going to have much of an enemy left after the repulsor does its job, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that it will survive, but it still has a very decent chance of surviving before it unloads these 10 intercessors. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about the new Primaris Space Marine Intercessor squad. Long time coming, both the review and the models. I was expecting them to be like the first release along with the Hellblasters Inceptors, and it turns out that they were the last things to be released. I'm glad they're here. Maximum, I'd probably buy another box set. I wouldn't go down the route of just buying 5. If I was going to buy another box set, it'd be another 10, and that's about it, because I don't feel like I can get that many more poses out of them. If I did do a box set of 10, I'll probably have 5 with Stalker bolt rifles and 5 with just normal bolt rifles, and that's my little Primaris Intercessor part of the army complete. Anyway, what do you guys think of these Primaris Intercessor models? I really like them. Even though I've read a couple of books and things, I'm still not 100% sold on the fluff. I mean, obviously it exists, but still, I'm still liking the fact that it gives us these good looking models, and you've got to admit that if anything, they do look better than what we've had before. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.